Right. That is especially with addiction, that is the first step in really changing is the desire to, and it's the desire that is almost like pointing towards Bandura's idea of self-efficacy, like the idea that you can do it, and it's that belief at the end and the proud feelings afterwards that becomes a drive for addicts in recovery.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, and Bandura proved through experiments that with self-efficacy, if you actually believed in yourself and believed that you could accomplish things, that you were proven to be way more successful at it. It can help with mental health issues, and so not just with success, but it helps PTSD vets and has been studied a lot. So all you have to do is train yourself to believe that you can, and you can change your outlook on life. It has health benefits, mental benefits.
Yeah, that ties in a lot as well with Garcia. He believed that extrinsic rewards like money and you know, rewards that aren't coming from within yourself aren't necessarily always the most effective motivators as intrinsic rewards like sensing a sense of accomplishment or satisfaction for doing something meaningful. All right. And for Freud, what were his ideas on motivation in comparison to Bandura and Garcia?
Well,
Or even how did his original ideas contribute to the theories that they would later develop?
his original theories about motivation and behavior, uh, like I brought up before, the ID, the ego, and the superego. Um, uh, I didn't really touch base with that much, but so the ID is the unconscious part of the brain. It's the part that has our desires, our hidden motives. The ego is kind of like the decision maker in our brain. Um, and the superego is, I don't really know how to explain it. It's more of like, it's like an angel on your shoulder, kind of, and like a devil on your shoulder. It points out like the good things and like things that you need to do. And so he basically said that the ID and the ego and the superego work together, shaping a person's behavior. And that was also talked about in his psychoanalysis theory. Um, and psychoanalysis was developed um, yeah, psychoanalysis was a theory of how the mind works and a method of helping people in mental distress. It was developed to gain an understanding of somebody's behavior patterns, and they would basically understand themselves better, and that shapes today, like shapes today's talk therapy. So he basically started talk therapy in a way, um, and it wasn't as developed as today's talk therapy is, but it definitely shaped what the future had in store. Um, and in psychoanalysis, uh, they would try to understand the person's unconscious mind a lot better.
Yeah, Freud's work with talk therapy definitely plays into this self-efficacy from Bandura and Garcia's intrinsic motivation, because I mean, one of the main purposes of talk therapy is kind of to get you to feel uh, a sense of meaning within yourself, so that intrinsic reward that you would get, I suppose, from talk therapy would be a really a motivating factor to encourage you uh, to keep doing that. And it would help with uh, a lot, I guess. Yeah.
I don't know what we would do without talk therapy. I mean, what did people do before then? Just bottle stuff in and just hope that it doesn't make their little heads explode. Like it gave us the opportunity to have a pattern for sitting down and opening up about things, and I guess it kind of paved the way for other methods of psychoanalysis that was just, I guess, based on one person instead of like external experiments.
Yeah. It was definitely more personal during psychoanalysis than his regular experiments. That I can agree with. He also, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. You can go ahead.
He also had the groundbreaking theories and experiments with his interpretation of dreams. In Freud's view, dreams are formed as the result of two mental processes. The first process involves unconscious forces that construct a wish that is expressed by the dream, and the second is the process of censorship that forcibly distorts the expression of the wish. So basically, in his view, all dreams are forms of like wish fulfillment. He advanced the idea that an analyst can differentiate between the manifest content and latent content of a dream. The manifest content refers to the remembered narrative that plays out in the dream itself, and the latent content refers to the underlying meaning of the dream. So basically, like the manifest content is like what you remember in the dream, and the latent content is what they analyze and I guess state was the meaning of the dream. So basically, it's been argued that his theory of dreams requires sexual interpretation. However, he contested this criticism, noting that the assertion that all dreams require a sexual interpretation, against which critics rage so insistently, occurs nowhere in his interpretation of dreams. So he doesn't talk about sexual interpretation at all, basically, in his book. And he wrote the book actually in 1899, which I think is pretty crazy. It's a while ago.
Yeah, that is actually really crazy to think that the thing that he was working with is something that is similar to what we did in class when we were talking about our dreams.
Yeah.
And Dr. Lomax was helping us analyze it as well as the class together. But yeah, it's interesting to see how even 1899 and today we're still continuing the same practices in psychology.
Yeah.
I think that Freud was definitely on the right path with interpreting dreams, but just having read something about dream interpretations, I think that it's a little bit more poignant to interpret your own dreams how you see fit, because you're the only one who really knows what different meanings would be. So if you're you know, having a lot of stresses in your dreams, and then, you know, crow turns into your mom and flies away. Like, other people can tell you what that means all day long, but you're the only one that knows, maybe like that you're going through a hard time with her or something. So it's pretty cool that he was like some of the first to, at least in the modern days, try to dream interpret. I'm sure it's been going on for a very long time.
Yeah,
It's
dream
more of a
Yeah.
cool way.
dream interpretation is definitely something that that people have always done. I feel like it's definitely been something that's I feel like pretty intrinsically fascinating to all of us, why we dream and what they mean. So
Yeah.
it's
Like
it's
The Vikings were doing that a lot. If you dreamed of, like crows, then that was Odin visiting you and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, even like non-superstitious people like believe in the interpretation of their own dreams, which is I think it's like a uniform thing amongst all people that like dreams mean something, or have an underlying meaning behind them.
Yeah, and it's also just a good idea to dream journal, you know, based on what you see there. You might learn some things about yourself that you either hadn't faced yet or just didn't realize consciously fully.
Yeah, and what I've realized is that if I don't write down what my dream was, like as soon as I wake up, I will completely forget it. Um, so it's definitely helpful to have like a journal, like or something physical next to you whenever you wake up.
Do you ever analyze your own dreams?
I have. The last time I actually did that was whenever we did it for Dr. Lomax in class. Um, but since then I have not, but I have remembered certain parts of my dreams. But like never the full thing unless I remember it as soon as I wake up. And I know that I remember it as soon as I wake up, but I forget the context behind it. So
what about you, Spencer? Do you analyze your dreams?
Um, yeah, I do. I do. If I wake up remembering it, then I will sit there and think about it, or think about it later in the day and try to figure out like what was that, what's going on. And it has made me realize some things, and I've definitely paid more attention after our conversation in class to some of the deeper meanings behind them. A lot of times it has to do with different stresses. They'll come out in dreams a lot and have really weird representations, but I'll realize like, oh, I was stressing about that, not even realizing that it was that big of a deal. Yeah, what about you?
Well, I don't really analyze my dreams. I don't really remember my dreams either. I kind of don't wake up knowing what I dream, so it's a little hard to analyze them or even write them down.
yeah, I understand how that feels sometimes because most of the time I don't even remember it. But whenever I do, it's like it feels like an important event to me. So I have to analyze it, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I've actually started being interested in like analyzing my own dreams whenever we did it in class. That's whenever I first started like thinking about it really.
Yeah, that's something interesting to me, and it's just never something I've uh really been able to do. So I don't know. It's still interesting though.
Yeah.
One thing that Bandura has left me thinking about is his concept of reciprocal determinism. We understand that not only does the environment impact behavior, but behavior can affect one's environment. And at first, when I read that, I was like, what on earth could that possibly mean? But a good example is I am extroverted and love dancing. So you're going to find me going out into high social environments. So my personality is affecting the environment, not just environments having effect on the person.
Yeah,
That's not like what people say, like I guess parents most of the time who like um the people you are around are like a reflection of your character as well.
Mhm.
Um because surrounding yourself in that environment does not only determine your um behavior, but your behavior will also determine your environment and which friends you will decide to have. So it is true.
Yeah. And it's funny that it took us so long to really think about it that way because it just makes perfect sense. Like my personality dictates what clothes I wear, so why wouldn't it impact the rest of my environment and how I, what I put myself in?
Yeah. Well, to me, what really stood out about these three psychologists was how, from the same kind of phenomena, they were able to come to such distinct conclusions and derive unique theories, like their own theories about why and how these things were going on in the brain, and why we were behaving in certain ways. Um, so that's really interesting how it's evolved over time, and still how we're not quite sure which of them is right. Um, but regardless, we can still learn a lot from the discoveries that these psychologists have made. I mean, from retraining our reward system to even expanding our capacity for learning. Garcia, Bandura, and Freud have really had a profound impact on the field of psychology and our knowledge of why we behave the way we do.
Yeah, I agree, because I mean, all of them have contributed their work for the greater good, for other psychologists, not for just themselves. And I think it's really important to talk about their work and compare it to what we do now, because we can even learn something new in doing so. And we can even gain more insight on experiments in the modern world. Um,
Yeah, and in not only the what is true about what they proposed, but also what they might have theorized that we have kind of disproven, and we can see why they might have, we can analyze why they might have thought that way, or seen it from that angle as well. So we can kind of have a wider viewpoint as well,
yeah.
be more open.
Mhm. And even if they are so different, like they were all working towards the betterment of the self. They were all pretty. Well, I mean, I guess I can't really say this. I was gonna say altruistic, but maybe not. Maybe it was for their own self gain and notoriety, um, but they were working towards bettering mental health issues and figuring out why stuff happened, and then trying to kind of reverse engineer that and say, like, okay, well, how can we stop certain behaviors?
Yeah,
Yeah,
regardless of their intentions, really. In the end, we learned a lot from everything that um, they've discovered. So even if their intentions were altruistic or um, not so good, or not so benevolent, I guess, um, we've still, I guess, got a lot to thank them for all the research that they did.
yeah. I remember there was this one thing that I read, that Freud did. He assessed a bunch of World War One vets, and they all had shell shock. And he used psychoanalysis and analyzed their thought processes and behaviors. And actually, it was said that it helped them a lot in many ways, talking about what happened and what they saw, and I guess letting go and bringing out those memories, and not just keeping to themselves. So I thought that was really cool. Whenever I read that, I mean, I think it's based off of trying to help more people. I think that they definitely all contributed some part of their work to help more people, even if some different experiments and theories they had were for personal or selfish reasons. I think that they definitely had breakthroughs for humankind and everything that we do today.
Yeah, and especially like you talked about earlier about talk therapy, and with these shell shock victims or PTSD, I guess. That's very effective, and I can only imagine what they were doing before.
Yeah.
All right. Well, does anyone else have do you guys have any other thoughts?
I don't.
I don't either.
So
It should be good then.
yeah, I think we should be good.
Well, this has been a fun look at all the different eminent psychologists, their work on learning. It's been fun talking to y'all.
Yeah,
Yes,
for
it has.
sure.